Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we have Susan Tedeschi, and this is going to be coming from 1999, and she's going to be playing through Rock Me Right. So let's get Susan up on screen and see how she gets on.
You say you haven't been right in a long, long time. Oh, that good hard rocking is so hard to find, yes. Gonna make you sweat, gonna make you shine. Oh, your homemade loving done knocked me out, yes. Oh, I was longing hard for you. And you seem to love what I'm fixing to do, darling. Oh, you rock a little hard, but that's alright. Oh, your fruit ain't rotten, it's oh so right. Oh, now your mama sure gonna raise you right. Well, it comes to home cooking, you eat every bite. Take your sweet time, all night. I'm gonna show you how to rock me right. Oh, I wanna rock me right. Rock me right. Rock me right. I'm gonna show you how to rock me right. Yeah, rock me right now. When the summer starts growing, I know what you need, baby. Love makes me up, something salty and sweet. Love ain't cooking, no, it's nothing cheap.
I'm just going to jump in here because you've got a good vibe for the performance so far, and there's so much energy in there, and when Susan starts up with that vocal, straight away she's just knocking it out of the park, because that vocal that she's got has got such soul in there, but also she's got that grit, that attitude, and when you then pair that together with the fact that she's playing and singing at the same time, and putting these two things together, I always say doubles the difficulty. Susan's guitar is so high in the mix, and of course we start the track just with the guitar and her vocals, so it means that her guitar is the driving force behind the track, and especially considering the clean tone that she's got going on, it's absolutely dry, it means that her playing's going to be spot on the whole time in order to provide that rhythm underneath her vocals. Is something that might fly under the radar, especially with people that don't play, that might not notice that Susan's supplying all of that rhythm work. All we've got is piano and the bass as well, and drums obviously, but the driving force of that rhythm is her guitar. There's no luxury of a second guitarist here. Another thing that Susan's got with her voice are those trills, those classic blues trills that she throws in at the end of lines, and as well as having that grit on there, it's one of those things that is difficult to do, and you don't hear a lot of people with great trills in quite a dirty tone vocally in terms of having that grit on there, but still having that flexibility in the vocal cords in order to throw those trills together. So a really cool sound that Susan gets vocally. She is totally clean in these solos as well. It's not as if she's playing her rhythm tone and then knocks into a massive distorted sound for the solo. Just pretty much exactly the same tone as rhythm when she goes into her lead. Of course, that means that there's absolutely nowhere to hide, so all of her lead playing has got to be spot on. Another thing that Susan employs in her lead work intentionally are double stops, because this is one of those techniques that if you are playing and you haven't got that second guitarist just backing you up with a rhythm, then putting double stops in is a great way to fill out the sound. And if you don't know what double stops are, it's just playing two notes at the same time on different strings. So it is giving your lead an effective rhythm sound because it's like a chord ringing out, and it's a great thing to go to, like Susan's doing here. She's also going off into those single notes, which is great as a variation as well. And on that note of just playing lead guitar and singing with such a great voice as well, how many artists do you know, especially nowadays, that sing but then can sell you a lead guitar solo on a telly with a clean tone? It's one of those things that is so rare to find musicians, male or female, that can do that. And of course, if you start analysing what's going on here from a sound perspective and who is responsible for making most of that sound, of course it's going to be Susan with the driving rhythm guitar, her great vocal, and she's also the lead guitarist as well. But having a solid rhythm section, I always say, is the most important thing to have as the foundation, and we've certainly got that here. We've also got the keys coming in, and this is pretty much one of those performances that's just all out rock and roll. It's called Rock Me Right, so of course it's going to sound like that. We got a little bit of a breakdown dynamically just when we entered this verse. And just from a crowd perspective, because this is one of those gigs where everyone's sat down and they're quite far away from the stage. So in terms of getting some energy from the crowd in your own performance, it's going to be difficult in a setting like this. But Susan doesn't miss a beat here and just is into it 100% straight away. Sometimes you'll find that some artists, when there isn't an interaction, they then struggle to perform because they need that energy from the crowd, whereas Susan's just got her own energy that she's then throwing out there. And Susan has popped up a couple of times on this channel before in the context of playing rhythm underneath Derek Truck's slide guitar, because I've analysed Derek on this channel as well. But they're married and they have their own band called Tedeschi Truck's Band, and they're touring in 2019, so you can check them out if you want to. But it's great to have a look at Susan here just by herself at the front of the stage, and I think this would have been before she met Derek. But let's watch the rest of the performance.
Oh, your cotton ain't rotten, just needs to be picked. Oh, now your mama sure done raised you right. When it comes to home cooking, you eat every bite. Take a sweet time, all night. I'm gonna show you how to rock me right. Oh, I'm gonna rock me right. Rock me right. Rock me right. I'm gonna show you how to rock me right. Oh, now rock me right now. Rock me right now. Rock me right. I'm gonna show you how to rock me right. Rock me right, darling. Oh, now.
And there we have it. Just to finish the track, just a little look over her shoulder, just one of those cues in order for the whole band to then finish up with the track. And what I liked as well was that change to the neck pickup on the telly, because it gives such a great sound on a Fender Telecaster, if you don't know what I'm saying. But it's just a great sound when you go to that neck pickup. And maybe she could have done it a few more times. It might have been the case that the sound that we get from the video might be different to what they're hearing on stage. So you think that when you hear it on this sound that we have, you think, oh, it would have been great to go to that neck pickup maybe a little bit more during the solos. And we can see from her playing as well that it's very much an emphasis on downstrokes and double stops like I mentioned before, but getting an aggressive sound with her lead work by striking down on the strings with a little bit of force to get that percussive sound. And we haven't really got any alternate picked runs here or anything really in terms of sweep picking arpeggios, all that kind of stuff. It's not really something you get in the blues anyway, but we have got a little reverse sweep that she does earlier in a little solo section, and it's a great effect again to fill in the frequencies, to fill in that sound with percussive noises when you're playing lead guitar. And Susan's been in bands since she was 13, so she's absolutely got that stagecraft down, and at the age of 18 she started her first original band, and she's also cited Bonnie Raitt and Janis Joplin as influences, and certainly vocally you can see that Janis influence in there with that grit and that expression in her voice. And one of those vocals that again is unique because it has that quality to it of being so aggressive, and it's a great weapon to have in your arsenal vocally to be able to go to that really strong belt in that chest voice, because then you can always bring it back to a softer sound dynamically. It's one of those sounds that you can't really replicate that, especially if you see somebody who goes on stage and when there is a high note that everybody's waiting for and then they flip into their head voice, it kind of just isn't the same. It wasn't what you wanted it to be, whereas Susan absolutely leans into this belting sound throughout this whole performance. And when I said about the guitar having nothing on it in terms of effects, exactly the same can be said here for this vocal mic. What we're hearing is just purely Susan's voice, and all the tone we get is just her vocal cords. So it's really impressive to have such a full vocal sound, considering that it's just through a dry mic. But a great high energy blues performance here, and check out Tedeschi Trucks Band if you get a chance. There are lots of videos on YouTube of Susan and Derek laying it down, also playing with BB King. That's worth a watch as well. And in all, I mean, Susan's been nominated for 6 Grammys, and they won a Grammy, Tedeschi Trucks Band, and have also won, I think, 6 Blues Music Awards. So if they are passing through your town, definitely worth a watch. Just pick up a ticket and see them. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.